Hello and welcome to today's movie recap. Today's story follows a ruthless cop in the streets called Mudua. We find Mudua in an operation. He has just cornered a gang he and his team have been trailing for a while. One of the cornered gangsters, Slim, manages to cause confusion as Mudua begins executing them in broad daylight to ensure the message is clear to all criminals, and together with one of his people they run. Mudua quickly reacts with his team dispatch and chase them down. Mudua finally corners one of them and shoots him dead when he refuses to stop, while Slim manages to escape. Mudua and team search the body and realize the man has no weapon, and to close the case quick they plant a gun on him as Mudua quenches his thirst with a packet of milk. Slim changes his clothes quickly and gets a bike to transport him from the scene, and he attends a function. We learn that he is working with an NGO about reformation and building talents in the hood. A starring irony. After talking at the function as a guest speaker and encouraging young people to stop crime, he goes back to his hood, where we realize he is the boss of his hood and all criminals pay a tax to him in order to be allowed to operate in his hood, and thus the high profile in the police radar. He starts his work with his girl, Carol, where she pretends to be a passenger and direct the bike rider to a spot, steal the bike from him and start patrolling his area, collecting taxes. Carol, we also learn, has just delivered Slim's child, but both don't seem to care much about the child and leave it with Carol's mum, who is constantly arguing with Carol about her abandoning her responsibilities as a mother. They collect tax in the hood and are informed about Mudua rounding up known criminals and killing anyone who will not give up Slim's plans or where to find him. While all this is occurring, we learn that a young journalist has been following up and covering up the murders of young men in the neighborhood in the name of crime. She has been interviewing the families of the deceased young men and finding a whole other story about a serial killer cop with full permission to operate in the streets from the highest office in the police force. We see how Mudua and his partners operate. They arrest suspected criminals and take them to different black sites where they make agreements with them, giving them fare back to their rural homes, and if he doesn't leave immediately, he is killed, or also he is given a tax that he must pay every week in exchange for his life and permission to operate discreetly. After this, we also see Mudua doing patrol and has arrested a suspected criminal, and as they pass in the streets, he approaches a groceries vendor who we learn is the mother of Slim and warns her that if her son doesn't leave the city by end of day, they will bring him to her in a coffin, and Mudua walks away. Then we see Carol approach one of Mudua's partners, and we learn he is her source of the gun she uses in robberies, and she also hands him her tax for the week, but instead of the cop agreeing, he asks her to tell him where Slim is. She says she has no idea and starts to beg on her knees for her life. The cop angrily corks his gun and shoots her point blank and leaves her for dead in the streets. As this is happening, we see Slim is tracking a mark with his partner, a business lady whom is just from the bank. They pounce on her and she tries to fight back and they stab her and kill her and run off with her bag of cash. Mudua and his partner arrive at the scene of crime and know it is Slim who is behind this, and now they want him dead. They take a bike and go hunting. Slim goes to his mother's house and finds his sister. He then goes to the kitchen and realizes there is no food, so he sends his sister for some few items at the local shop. On her way out, at the door she meets Mudua and his partner, whom ask her where Slim is, and she says he hasn't been home for a while. But as the cops are just leaving, Slim makes a blunder, and from inside the house asks whom it is. The cops, realizing their target is inside, get in quick and arrest him. The sister runs to her mother's shop to tell her Mudua have arrested Slim and are going to kill him. They run back together, but it's too late. Mudua and partner, after arresting Slim, take him outside in front of the neighborhood while still cuffed, shoot him to death, uncuff him and leave him there after quenching his thirst with a packet of milk. The mother, on her way to her son, hears the shots and knows her son is dead, and she collapses and dies too in the streets. On Slim's death, the streets are reacting, and the leadership structure is reorganizing, with some lieutenants now declaring themselves the generals going forward. We also realize that Carol survived and is in hospital but under arrest. Her gang bring her food, and in the food they hide Cuff Key, and the minute the nurses leave, she escapes. Mudua, on the other hand, is still going after Slim's gang and is killing them one after another in the open streets, and as usual has a taste for milk after every killing. By this time, it has become national news that there is a documentary about to drop exposing a rogue police unit that have been taking the law into their hands and becoming judge, jury, and executioner, something the laws of the land condemn. The news reaches the police unit, and they realize they have to clean up house and find that journalist for a conversation. Mutua corners the lady journalist in her house and delivers a packet of milk and asks her not to make him collect it, and he walks away. But it is a bit late because Mutua is the summon to the police headquarters, where he meets his boss and intelligence officers, whom inform him the damage is too deep, and they must stop the bleeding. Therefore, they task him with a special mission away from the city, and immediately Mutua understands what this means. They are cleaning house, and he is a loose end. Thus, after the meetup, he calls his wife and gives her some sets of instructions on how to disappear, and he too must disappear and starts a new life away. Thus, all his actions have finally caught up with him. That's where our film ends today, and we hope you enjoyed. Subscribe and share. Until next time, cheers.